The great hall of the Dominion was cold. It was always cold. The rulers of the galaxy liked it that way. They believed cold air showed power. It showed that comfort was for the weak. Kang Do-hyun stood at the back of the hall. He was a human soldier, 34 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. His uniform was clean but old. He had served the Dominion for 12 years. In all that time, he had never been called to the Great Hall. Humans were not important enough for such places. Around him stood the High Council. 7 alien lords sat on floating thrones. Their skin was purple, their eyes were gold, and their bodies were twice the size of any human. They were the Varath, the ruling species of the Dominion. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. Earth was just one of them. "Bring forward the soldier," said Lord Kavran, the head of the council. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. Do-hyun walked forward. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. He kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing emotion to the Varath was dangerous. They enjoyed fear. They enjoyed anger even more. "You are Kang Do-hyun," said Lord Kavran. It was not a question. "Yes, my lord," Do-hyun replied. "You have served well. Your commanders say you follow orders. You do not complain. You do not cause problems." Lord Kavran smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We've decided to reward you." Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten. Rewards from the Dominion were never good. They were tricks. They were tests. Sometimes they were punishments dressed up as gifts. "Thank you, my lord," he said carefully. Lord Kavran raised one large hand. A door at the side of the hall opened. 2 guards walked in, dragging 2 figures between them. The figures were women, but they were not human. The first was tall, almost as tall as Do-hyun. Her skin was silver, and it glowed softly in the cold light. Strange markings covered her arms and face, like living tattoos that pulsed with blue light. Her hair was white and long, falling past her shoulders. Her eyes were bright purple, and they burned with hatred. She fought against the guards, pulling at her chains. The second woman was smaller. Her skin was pale blue, like the sky on a winter morning. Her eyes were large and dark, almost black. She did not fight. She walked calmly, her head held high. But Do-hyun could see the fear hidden deep in those dark eyes. "These are Princess Ilya of the Valari Kingdom," said Lord Kavran, pointing to the silver woman, "and Princess Sora of the Lunith Empire." He pointed to the blue woman. "Their people made the mistake of rebelling against us. Now their kingdoms are ashes. Their families are dead, and they belong to us." The council members laughed. It was an ugly sound. "We considered what to do with them," Lord Kavran continued. "We could have killed them. We could have sold them. But then we had a better idea." He looked at Do-hyun with cruel amusement. "We will give them to you." Do-hyun did not understand. "My lord? They are yours, human. Your property. Your responsibility." Lord Kavran leaned forward. "Do whatever you wish with them. Sell them. Use them. Break them. We do not care. It amuses us to give conquered princesses to a member of a conquered race. Let them learn that they are now lower than the lowest species in our empire." The other council members laughed again. Princess Ilya screamed in rage and lunged toward the throne. The guards held her back. "You monsters!" she shouted. "I am royalty. I will not be given to some human animal." "You are nothing," said Lord Kavran calmly. "You are less than nothing. And now you belong to nothing." He waved his hand. "Take them away. This meeting is over." The guards pushed the 2 princesses toward Do-hyun. One guard handed him a small device. "This controls their shot callers," the guard said with a grin. "Press the button if they cause trouble. It will teach them to obey." Do-hyun took the device. He looked at the two women. Ilya stared at him with pure hatred. Sora watched him with those careful, calculating eyes. "Follow me," Diane said quietly. He turned and walked toward the exit. He did not look back to see if they followed. He knew they had no choice. The walk to his quarters took 20 minutes. They passed through crowded corridors filled with soldiers and workers of many species. Everyone stared at the strange group. A human leading two alien princesses in chains was not something anyone had seen before. Some soldiers laughed. Some made cruel comments. One Varath officer stepped in front of Do-Yun and looked at the princesses with hungry eyes. "Nice prizes," the officer said. "Maybe you should share them." Do-Yun met his eyes. "They are mine. The council gave them to me. Do you want to question the council's decision?" The officer's smile faded. He stepped aside. They continued walking. Do-Yun's quarters were small. One room with a bed, a table, 2 chairs, and a tiny bathroom. It was not much, but it was private. That was rare for a human in the Dominion. He closed the door behind them. Then he turned to face the two princesses. Ilya immediately stepped forward. "If you think I will submit to you, you are wrong. I would rather die." Sora said nothing. She just watched. Do-Yun reached into his pocket and took out a small key. He walked toward Ilya. She tensed, ready to fight. He unlocked her chains. They fell to the floor with a loud clang. Then he walked to Sora and did the same. Both women stared at him in shock. "There is food in that cabinet," Do-Yun said, pointing. "The bathroom is there. The bed is yours. I will sleep on the floor." Ilya's mouth opened and closed. For the first time, she seemed unable to speak. "Why?" Sora asked. Her voice was soft and musical. "Why are you doing this?" Do-Yun looked at her. He was quiet for a moment. "Because you are people," he said simply. "Not property." He walked to the corner of the room and sat down on the floor. He leaned his back against the wall and closed his eyes. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be difficult." The two princesses looked at each other. They did not understand this human. He was not like anything they had expected. Ilya wanted to believe it was a trick. Sora was not so sure. That night, they slept in the bed while a human soldier slept on the cold floor. And somewhere in the Great Hall, the Dominion Council laughed about their little joke, never knowing that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The first week was strange for everyone. Princess Ilya did not trust Kang Do-Yun. She could not trust him. In her world, kindness was always a mask. Behind every smile was a knife. Behind every gift was a trap. She had grown up in a royal court where everyone wanted something. No one gave without expecting more in return. So she tested him. She insulted him. She called him weak. She called him ugly. She called humans a disease upon the galaxy. She said his people were slaves because they deserved to be slaves. She said terrible things, worse things than she had ever said to anyone. Do-Yun listened. Sometimes he nodded. Sometimes he smiled slightly. He never got angry. He never raised his hand. He never even raised his voice. One morning, Ilya threw her food at the wall. "I will not eat this garbage." She screamed. "I am a princess. I deserve better than this." Do-Yun looked at the food on the wall. Then he looked at Ilya. "That was my food too," he said calmly. "Now I will be hungry today." He cleaned the mess without another word. Princess Sora watched everything. She was different from Ilya. Where Ilya was fire, Sora was water. She did not fight. She did not scream. She observed. She learned. She remembered. She noticed many things about Do-Yun. She noticed that he always let them eat first. He would wait until they were finished before taking whatever was left. Some days, there was nothing left. On those days, he did not complain. She noticed that he gave them the bed every night. The floor was hard and cold. After a week, she could see the pain in his back when he stood up in the morning. But he never mentioned it. She noticed that he protected them. Other soldiers came to the door sometimes. They wanted to see the princesses. They wanted to touch them. They wanted to hurt them. Do-hyun stood in the doorway every time. He never moved. He never backed down. One day, a Varath officer came. He was big and mean and drunk on power. "Step aside, human," the officer said. "I want to inspect your property." "No," said Do-hyun. The officer's golden eyes narrowed. "Do you know who I am? I could kill you right now. I could kill you, and no one would care. You are just a human." "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "I am just a human. But they are under my protection. The council gave them to me. If you want them, ask the council." The officer stared at him for a long moment. Do-hyun did not blink. He did not look away. He stood in that doorway like a mountain dot finally. The officer spat on the ground and walked away. That night, Sora spoke to Ilya in the darkness. "I do not understand him," Sora whispered. "He's playing a game," Ilya replied. "He wants us to trust him. Then he will use that trust against us." "Perhaps," Sora said. "But what if he's not playing?" Ilya had no answer, for that days turned into weeks. The routine became familiar. Do-hyun left early each morning for his duties. He returned in the evening, tired and quiet. He brought food. He asked if they needed anything. He never asked for anything in return. Slowly, Ilya's anger began to fade. It was hard to stay angry at someone who showed only kindness. It was hard to hate someone who treated her with more respect than her own people sometimes had. One evening, she finally asked the question that had been burning inside her. "Why?" She demanded. "Why do you treat us this way? We are your enemies. Our people have never helped yours. Some of my own advisors called humans animals. Why do you not hate us?" Do-hyun was sitting on the floor, eating a small piece of bread. He chewed slowly and swallowed before answering. "Hate takes energy," he said. "I am too tired for hate. That is not an answer." He looked at her with those calm, dark eyes. "When I was young, the Dominion came to Earth. They killed my parents. They burned my village. They took me and made me a soldier. I have seen what hate does. I have seen what cruelty creates." He paused. "I decided a long time ago that I would not become the thing I hated. The Dominion took everything from me. But they cannot take who I choose to be. They cannot force me to be cruel." Sora felt tears forming in her eyes. She quickly looked away. Ilya sat down heavily on the bed. For the first time, she looked at Do-hyun not as an enemy or a captor, but as a person. A person who had suffered. A person who had chosen kindness when the universe gave him every reason to choose hate. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "For the things I said. For how I treated you." Do-hyun shrugged. "You were scared. Scared people say things they do not mean." "I understand." "No," Ilya said firmly. "I was wrong. I looked at you and saw only a human. I did not see a man. I did not see—" She struggled to find the words. "I did not see you." Do-hyun smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Now you do," he said simply. From that night on, things changed. Ilya stopped testing him. She started talking to him instead. She told him about her kingdom, about her family, about the war that had destroyed everything she loved. He listened. He always listened. Sora began to share too. She told him about the Lunith people, about their culture of knowledge and wisdom. She told him about her sister, who had died in the final battle. She cried, and Do-hyun sat beside her in silence, offering comfort without words. And Do-hyun told them about Earth, He described green forests and blue oceans. He talked about cities that touched the clouds and villages hidden in mountains. He spoke of his mother's cooking and his father's laughter. He shared memories of a home that existed now only in his heart. 3 people from 3 different worlds, sitting in a tiny room on a space station far from any of their homes. They were supposed to be enemies. They were supposed to be master and slaves. Instead, they were becoming something else. They were becoming friends. But outside that little room, the galaxy continued to turn. The Dominion continued to crush anyone who stood against it. And soon, very soon, Kang Do-hyun would have to make a choice that would change everything. He did not know it yet. But the 2 princesses, sleeping peacefully in his bed, would stand beside him when that moment came. And together, they would shake the stars. 3 months passed. Winter came to the space station. Not real winter, of course. There were no seasons in space. But the Dominion lowered the temperatures to save energy, and the corridors became even colder than before. Do-hyun brought extra blankets. He found warmer clothes for the princesses. He gave him his own jacket when the cold became too much. When Ilya protested, he simply said, "My body is used to discomfort. Yours is not." It was during this cold season that Sora made a discovery. Do-hyun had a small computer terminal in his room. He used it for reports and communication with his commanders. But Sora had been trained in intelligence work. She knew how to find things that were supposed to stay hidden. One night, while Do-hyun was sleeping and Ilya was bathing, Sora carefully accessed the terminal. She did not want to betray Do-hyun's trust. She only wanted to understand. She wanted to know why the Dominion treated humans the way they did. What she found shocked her. She found files. Old files. Secret files. Files that the Dominion had tried to bury. The files told the true history of humanity's conquest. 60 years ago, the Dominion had arrived at Earth. They expected an easy victory. Humans had no spaceships. They had no energy weapons. They had nothing that could match the Dominion's technology. But humans had something else. They had spirit. The first invasion force was destroyed. The Dominion sent 10,000 soldiers to Earth. Only 300 returned alive. Humans fought with everything they had. They used guns and bombs and fire. They used traps and tricks and tactics the Dominion had never seen before. They hid in mountains and jungles and cities. They refused to surrender. The Dominion had to send a second army, then a third, then a fourth. Each time, humans found new ways to fight. Each time, the cost of victory grew higher. In the end, the Dominion won only by threatening to destroy the entire planet. They put weapons in orbit that could burn the surface clean. They told humanity, "Surrender, or everyone dies." Humans surrendered. But they never broke. The files contained something else too. Reports from Dominion commanders, psychological studies, threat assessments, and in every single one, there was fear. The Dominion was afraid of humans. They were afraid of human creativity. Humans could look at any problem and find a dozen solutions. They could build weapons from scrap metal and trash. They could turn anything into a tool for survival. They were afraid of human endurance. Humans could survive in environments that killed other species. They could go without food for weeks. They could recover from wounds that would destroy anyone else. But most of all, they were afraid of human unity. When humans faced a common enemy, they stopped fighting each other. They came together. Rich and poor, young and old, every nation and every culture. They became one. The Dominion had seen it during the conquest. They never wanted to see it again. That was why humans were kept scattered across the galaxy. That was why they were given the lowest jobs. That was why they were taught that they were weak and worthless. The Dominion wanted humans to forget what they were. They wanted humans to believe the lie. Sora closed the files. Her hands were shaking. She woke Ilya and told her everything. Ilya listened in silence. Her purple eyes grew wide. By the end, she was pacing the small room like a caged animal. "This changes everything," Ilya said. "The Dominion is afraid. They are actually afraid of these people. And they gave 2 of us to one of them. They thought it was funny. They thought it was safe." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They have no idea what they have done." The next morning, they told Dongyun what Sora had found. He listened calmly. He did not seem surprised. "You knew," Sora said. "You already knew all of this." "Some of it," Dongyun admitted. "The older humans tell stories. We pass down our history in secret. The Dominion tries to make us forget, but we remember." He paused. "We always remember. Why did you not tell us?" Ilya demanded. "Would you have believed me? When you first came here, you thought humans were animals. You thought we were weak and stupid. If I had told you we almost defeated the greatest empire in the galaxy, you would have laughed." Ilya's cheeks turned slightly darker. She had no answer because he was right. "But now you know," Dongyun continued. "Now you understand. We are not weak. We are not broken. We are waiting." "Waiting for what?" Sora asked. Dongyun looked at her with eyes that suddenly seemed much older and much more dangerous than before. "The right moment," he said. That afternoon, Ilya told them about the Valari. Their people had been warriors once. They had conquered star systems. They had been proud and strong. But the Dominion had crushed them. Her parents had been executed. Her brother had disappeared. She was the last of her royal line. "I thought my people's fire had died," she said. "I thought there was no hope. But if humans can keep their fire burning for 60 years under the Dominion's boot, then perhaps we can reignite ours." Sora shared her own knowledge. The Lunath people had always valued information over strength. They had built networks across the galaxy. Spies and informants and secret contacts. Most of those networks were destroyed, but not all. She still had connections. She still had ways to reach out. "If we combine our resources," Sora said slowly, "if we bring together human strength, Valari courage, and Lunath intelligence, we might be able to create something new. Something the Dominion has never faced before." Don shook his head. "It is too dangerous. You do not understand what the Dominion does to rebels. They do not just kill you. They kill everyone connected to you. Your friends, your family, everyone." "I have no family left," Ilya said quietly. "Neither do I," Sora added. They both looked at Duhai and Dot. He was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with pain. "I do what I do because it protects other humans. There are settlements out there, children, families. Every mission I complete, every order I follow, keeps them safe. If I rebel, the Dominion will punish them. And if you never rebel," Sora said gently, "they will be slaves forever. Their children will be slaves. And their children's children. The chain must be broken somewhere, Dohyun. It might as well be here. It might as well be now." Dohyun closed his eyes. The weight of the galaxy seemed to rest on his shoulders. He had spent 12 years being the perfect soldier, following orders, keeping his head down, protecting the people he could protect by sacrificing his own freedom. But Sora was right. That protection was temporary. That peace was false. Sooner or later, something would have to change. He opened his eyes. "Not yet," he said, "but soon. When the moment comes, I will be ready." Ilya put her hand on his shoulder. Sora took his hand. 3 people from 3 worlds, united by something stronger than chains. The Dominion had wanted to humiliate them. Instead, It had created a bond that would eventually tear the Empire apart. The galaxy just did not know it yet. The order came on a cold morning. Do-Hyun was called to his commander's office. Commander Varkas was a Varath, like most high-ranking officers. He had purple skin and golden eyes that never showed mercy. He had sent thousands of soldiers to their deaths without losing a single night of sleep. "We have a special mission for you," Commander Varkas said. His voice was like grinding stones. "The human settlement on planet Arceth has been accused of helping rebels. The High Council has ordered its complete destruction." Do-Hyun felt his blood turn to ice. Arceth. He knew Arceth. It was a farming world. Families lived there. Children played in fields of golden wheat. Old men sat on porches and told stories of Earth. "Destruction, sir?" Do-Hyun asked carefully. "Total destruction," Varkas confirmed. "Every building burned. Every human killed. We will make an example of them. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who help our enemies. Sir, with respect, has there been proof? Has there been a trial?" Varkas laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Trial? For humans? You are a musing soldier. The accusation is enough. We do not need proof. We need obedience." Do-Hyun's hands formed into fists at his sides. He kept his face blank, but inside, a fire was beginning to burn. "You will lead the ground team," Varkas continued. "You know human tactics. You know how they think. You will make sure no one escapes. When do we leave?" "Tomorrow morning. Prepare your equipment." Varkas turned away, already bored. Dismissed. Do-Hyun walked back to his quarters. Each step felt like walking through deep water. His mind was racing. His heart was pounding. By the time he reached his door, he had made his decision. He walked in. Ilya and Sora looked up. They immediately saw something was wrong. "What happened?" Ilya asked. Do-Hyun told them. He told them about Arceth. He told them about the Order. He told them about the innocent people who would die tomorrow. When he finished, Sora's face was pale. Ilya's hands were shaking with rage. "You cannot do this," Sora said. "You cannot kill innocent people. I know. But if you refuse, they will kill you," Ilya said. "They will execute you for disobeying orders." "I know that too." The room was silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on all three of them. "Then we have run out of time," Sora said quietly. "The moment you spoke of is here." Do-Hyun nodded. "I cannot follow this order. I will not become a murderer. I would rather die." "Then we die together," Ilya said firmly. "I will not let you face this alone." "Neither will I," Sora added. Do-Hyun looked at them. These two women who had come to him as captives, as prizes, as jokes. Now they were willing to die beside him. The universe was strange sometimes. "There might be another way," Sora said slowly. Her mind was already working, already planning. "I still have contacts. People who owe me favors. If we can get a message out tonight, we might be able to organize something." "What kind of something?" Do-Hyun asked. "Escape. Not just for us. For Arceth too." It was a desperate plan. It was probably impossible. But it was better than doing nothing. They worked through the night. Sora used hidden communication channels to reach her old network. Some contacts did not answer. Some refused to help. But others, a few precious others, said yes. Ilya reached out to the scattered remains of her people. The Valari had been conquered, but they had not disappeared. Small groups still existed, hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. When they heard that Princess Ilya was alive and calling for help, they answered, and Do-Hyun contacted the human underground. Every conquered people had secrets. Every slave population had whispers. He spoke words in a code that had been passed down for 60 years. A code the Dominion had never broken. By morning, They had the beginning of a plan, but they never got to use it. Commander Varkas was not stupid. He had spies everywhere. Someone had heard something. Someone had talked. The door burst open. A dozen soldiers rushed in. They threw Do-yoon to the ground and put chains on his wrists. They grabbed Ilya and Sora and held them at gunpoint. Varkas walked in behind his soldiers. His golden eyes were burning with anger. "You disappointed me, human," he said. "I thought you were smart. I thought you understood your place. But you are just like all the others. Weak, foolish, full of pathetic hope. Where are you taking them?" Do-hyun demanded, looking at the princesses. "The pleasure facilities on Station Omega," Varkas said with a cruel smile. "They will learn their proper place there. Many soldiers will enjoy teaching them." Ilya screamed and fought against the guards. Sora's face went white with terror. "And you," Varkas continued, turning back to Do-hyun, "will be executed publicly. Tomorrow in the main square. Every human on this station will watch. They will see what happens to traitors. They will learn to never, ever dream of rebellion again." The soldiers dragged them away. Do-hyun to the prison cells. Ilya and Sora to a transport ship. Everything they had built, everything they had planned, it was all falling apart. But the messages had already been sent. The calls for help had already gone out. Across the galaxy, people were receiving word. A human had refused to commit murder. 2 princesses had chosen to stand with him. The Dominion was trying to silence them. In secret places, on hidden stations, in dark corners of forgotten worlds. People began to move. Do-hyun sat in his cell. He could hear the guards outside laughing about his upcoming execution. He could imagine what was happening to Ilya and Sora. The thought made him sick. He had failed. He had tried to do the right thing, and he had failed. But then, in the deepest hour of the night, he heard something. A sound that did not belong. A guard falling. Another guard falling. Then silence. The door of his cell slid open. A figure stood in the darkness. It was a Valari warrior, silver skin glowing faintly. "Princess Ilya sent us," the warrior said. "Your ship leaves in 10 minutes. Do-hyun stared. "The princesses?" "They were captured." "Were," the warrior agreed. Past tense. A Luna strike team hit the transport before it reached the station. "The princesses are free. Now move. We have a lot of work to do." Do-hyun stood up. His body ached. His heart was pounding. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope that he followed the warrior into the darkness. Behind them, alarms began to sound. The Dominion was waking up. They were realizing that something was wrong. They had no idea how wrong it was about to get. The rebellion had begun. The escape ship was small and fast. It shot through space like a needle through cloth. Too small for the Dominion sensors to track easily. Do-hyun sat in the main cabin. Across from him sat Ilya and Sora. They looked tired and bruised but unbroken. When they saw him, Ilya actually smiled. "You look terrible," she said. "You should see the other guy," Do-hyun replied. It was a human joke. Ilya did not understand it, but she laughed anyway. Sora moved closer and examined his wounds. "They beat you. They tried to get information. I did not give them any." "Because you are stubborn," Ilya said. "Because there was nothing to give. I would never betray you." The words hung in the air. Simple words. True words. The kind of words that change everything. The ship took them to a hidden base on a moon with no name. It was a secret place, known only to those who opposed the Dominion. Here, the scattered remains of conquered peoples had gathered. Valari warriors, Luneth spies, and humans. So many humans. When Do-hyun stepped off the ship, he stopped and stared. There must have been 300 people waiting. Humans of all ages, from all corners of the galaxy. They had come from mining stations and farm worlds and factory ships. They had risked everything to reach this place, and they were all looking at him. An old woman stepped forward. Her hair was white, her face lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. "You are Kang Do-yin," she said. "The one who refused." "I just could not follow that order," Do-hyun said. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the old woman said firmly. "Not anyone. That is what makes you special. We have been waiting 60 years for someone to refuse. 60 years of following orders, keeping our heads down, hoping someone else would be brave first." She took his hands in hers. "You were brave first. Now we can follow." Do-hyun did not know what to say. He had never wanted to be a leader. He had never wanted to be a symbol. He just wanted to do what was right. But sometimes, the universe does not care what you want. Word of his refusal spread across the galaxy. Stories passed from world to world, station to station. They changed and grew in the telling. Some said he had killed 100 guards with his bare hands. Some said he had single-handedly rescued the princesses. The truth was simpler, but the legend was more powerful. Other species began to pay attention. The Archith, gray-skinned traders who had been conquered a century ago. The Bellows, tiny creatures with brilliant minds who served as the Dominion's engineers. The foreign first hunters who had lost their homeworld decades past. They all heard the story. They all began to wonder, if a human can resist, why can we not? The rebellion grew like a fire in dry grass. Ilya took command of military operations. She was a princess, trained from birth to lead armies. The Valari warriors who had rescued Do-hyun became the core of her forces. They were few in number, but deadly in skill. SOR built an intelligence network. Her Lunith contacts reached into every corner of the Dominion. They gathered secrets and spread them. They found weaknesses in the enemy's armor. They turned servants into spies and guards into informants. And Do-hyun led the human forces. He did not do it the way the Dominion expected. The Dominion fought with massive armies and overwhelming firepower. Do-hyun fought differently. He remembered the stories of Earth. He remembered how his ancestors had resisted the first invasion. He taught his people to fight like shadows. Strike fast. Disappear. Never meet the enemy where they expect you. Never give them a target they can destroy. Make them afraid of every corridor, every station, every world. It worked. The Dominion was used to crushing open rebellions. They knew how to fight armies. But this was not an army. This was a ghost. This was a nightmare. This was 1,000 small cuts that bled them dry. 6 months after the escape, they won their first major victory, a Dominion supply depot on the edge of the Empire. It held weapons and fuel and food meant for a dozen worlds. Ilya led the assault with her warriors. Sora had provided the security codes, and Do-hyun led the human strike teams through the maintenance tunnels that the Dominion had forgotten existed. They took the depot in 3 hours. Not a single rebel was lost. The news spread like lightning. A Dominion facility had fallen. Conquered peoples had worked together and won. It was possible to fight back. It was possible to win. More people joined. The trickle became a river. The river became a flood. The Dominion responded with fury. They sent fleets to crush the rebellion. They burned worlds that showed sympathy to the cause. They executed thousands of suspected rebels, but for every world they burned, 2 more joined the fight. For every rebel they killed, 10 more took their place. The cruelty that had kept the galaxy afraid for so long now made the galaxy angry. 1 year after the escape, Do-hyun stood before a council of rebellion leaders. Valari generals, Lunith commanders, representatives from a dozen species, and humans, so many humans, all looking at him with hope in their eyes. The Dominion is preparing a massive assault, Sora reported. They are gathering their entire fleet. Their target is Earth. The room went silent. Earth, the birthplace of humanity. The world that had been stolen 60 years ago. The Dominion was going to destroy it. They were going to wipe out the symbol that inspired the rebellion. We have to stop them, Do-hyun said. We do not have the ships, one of the Valari generals protested. The Dominion fleet outnumbers us 10-1. We cannot win a direct battle. We cannot, Do-hyun agreed. But we do not have to win. We just have to fight. That is suicide, the general said. Maybe. But if we do not fight for Earth, what are we fighting for? Do-hyun looked around the room. I did not start this rebellion to hide while my home burns. I started it because some things are worth dying for. If Earth falls, humanity falls. And if humanity falls, so does the hope of every conquered people in the galaxy. Ilya stood up. I will fight beside you. Sora stood as well. So will I. One by one, the other leaders rose. The Valari generals, the Lunath commanders, the representatives of a dozen species who had watched humans refuse to surrender and had found their own courage in that refusal. Then, it is decided, Do-hyun said. We go to Earth. We face the Dominion. And whatever happens, we face it together. The council cheered. The sound filled the room and spilled out into the corridors beyond Dot in his palace on the Dominion homeworld. Lord Cavern heard reports of the gathering rebel fleet. He laughed. Let them come, he said. We will crush them all at once. We will end this foolishness forever. He did not understand. He could not understand. The Dominion had ruled by fear for so long that they had forgotten what courage looked like. They were about to remember. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel against the black velvet of the universe. From orbit, it looked peaceful, beautiful, the cradle of humanity, the world where everything had begun. Around it, death had gathered. The Dominion fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships darkened the sky. Warships with cannons that could crack continents. Carriers filled with fighters. Command vessels where admirals gave orders that would decide the fate of worlds. Against them stood the rebellion. Their fleet was smaller, much smaller. Old ships held together with hope and desperate repairs. Stolen vessels still wearing Dominion colors. Civilian transports modified with whatever weapons could be found. It should have been a slaughter. Everyone knew it. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, a captured Dominion cruiser they had renamed Dawn. Beside him stood Ilya and Sora, the three of them together as they had been since the beginning. The enemy fleet is moving into position, Sora reported, reading the tactical display. They will be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Their formation? Ilya asked. Standard Dominion pattern. Heavy ships in front, carriers behind. They expect us to charge straight at them. Ilya smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then we will not charge straight at them. The rebel fleet had been organized into small groups. Each group had one simple instruction. Do not fight the same way twice. Humanity had survived for 60 years by being unpredictable. Today, they would make unpredictability into an art form. The battle began. Dominion ships opened fire. Their weapons painted the darkness with light. Energy beams, missiles, projectiles that moved too fast for the eye to follow. But the rebel ships were not where the Dominion expected them to be. They scattered like leaves in the wind. They dove and spun and twisted. They used asteroids for cover. They used each other's ships as shields. They did everything wrong by military standards, and they kept surviving. Fire at will, Do-hyun commanded. The rebel ships struck back. They aimed for weak points that Sora's intelligence network had identified. Engine housings, sensor arrays, ammunition stores. One Dominion destroyer exploded when a rebel missile found its way through an unshielded maintenance hatch. Lord Cavran watched from his command ship, deep within the fleet. His golden eyes narrowed with anger. "Destroy them," he ordered. "All ships, concentrate fire. I want that human fleet turned to ash." The Dominion ships tried to focus their attack, but every time they targeted one group of rebels, another group struck from a different direction. It was like trying to catch smoke with their hands. Hours passed. Ships burned and died on both sides. The Dominion lost more vessels than they had expected, but they had more vessels to lose. Slowly, inevitably, the rebel fleet began to shrink. On the dawn, alarms screamed. The ship had taken too much damage. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, an officer reported. "Engines failing. We are losing power. Abandon ship," Dahyun ordered. "All hands to escape pods. What about you?" Ilya demanded. "Someone needs to keep the ship flying. As long as the Dawn is active, the enemy will target it. That gives the escape pods time to reach other ships." "Then I stay too," Ilya said. "No, the Valari forces need their princess. You need to lead them. Dahyun, go. Please, win this battle. Free Earth, that is what matters." He looked at her with eyes full of something he had never said aloud. "That is all I ever wanted." Sora grabbed his hand. Tears streamed down her blue face. "You cannot do this. We cannot lose you. You will not lose me. As long as you remember me, as long as you tell my story, I will be with you. Always." He pushed them toward the escape pods. They tried to resist, but there was no time to argue. The ship was dying. Every second they delayed was a second their people needed. They left. Dahyun watched their pods launch into space. Then he turned back to the helm. "Just you and me now," he said to the dying ship. He flew the Dawn straight at the Dominion flagship. It was suicide. He knew it was suicide. But if he could take Lord Cavran with him, the Dominion would lose its leader. The fleet would fall into chaos. Alarms screamed. Fire spread through the corridors. The ship shook and groaned as systems failed one by one. The Dominion flagship grew larger and larger in the view screen. "For Earth," Dahyun whispered. "For everyone?" The dawn struck the flagship like a thunderbolt. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire that lit up the sky. Across the fleet, both Rebel and Dominion, everyone saw it happen. The human flagship had rammed the Dominion command vessel. Both were destroyed. The Rebel fleet fell silent with grief. Their leader was gone. But then, something strange happened. A voice crackled over every communication channel. Every ship, every station, every world in the galaxy heard it. "This is Kang Do-hyun." On the bridge of a captured Dominion shuttle, Do-hyun sat at the communication controls. He was burned and bleeding. He had escaped the dawn at the last moment, ejecting in a tiny emergency pod that had been picked up by a passing shuttle. His Dominion crew had not expected a human to survive. They had been wrong. "They told us we were nothing," Do-hyun said. His voice was tired but strong. "They told us we were weak. They told us we were slaves, and slaves we would remain forever. They were wrong. Across the galaxy, people stopped what they were doing. They listened. I do not fight because I will win. I fight because surrender was never an option. My people learned this 60 years ago. We learned it when the Dominion came to our world with fire and death. We learned that some things are worth more than survival. Freedom, dignity, hope. On 100 worlds, enslaved peoples lifted their heads. The Dominion is afraid. They have always been afraid. That is why they crush anyone who dreams of freedom. That is why they try to make us forget what we are. But we remember. We will always remember. And now we are not alone. In the fleet above Earth, The remaining rebel ships waited for orders. On Dominion vessels, crews looked at each other with uncertainty. "Join us," Do-hyun said. "Not for victory. Not for revenge. Join us for the right to stand. The right to be more than property. The right to choose your own destiny. Join us, and together, we will build a galaxy where no one is a slave." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, lights appeared on the tactical display. Ships changing sides. Dominion vessels whose crews had heard enough. Whose crews remembered their own conquered homeworlds. Whose crews decided that today was the day to stop being afraid. The battle turned. Without Lord Cavron, the Dominion command structure collapsed. Officers gave conflicting orders. Ships fired on their own allies in the confusion. The great fleet that had come to crush the rebellion began to destroy itself. By the time the sun rose over Earth, the Dominion fleet was broken. Those ships that could escape fled into deep space. Those that could not surrender. Earth was free. And standing on the bridge of his captured shuttle, looking down at the blue world he had never seen before but had always carried in his heart. Kang Do-hyun allowed himself to smile. They had won, but the war was not over yet. The fall of the Dominion did not happen in a single day. It took months. It took tears and blood and sacrifice. But it happened. After the Battle of Earth, the rebellion became unstoppable. News of the victory spread to every corner of the galaxy. Species that had accepted their fate for generations suddenly remembered what hope felt like. They rose up. They fought back. They refused to be slaves any longer. The Dominion tried to hold on. They sent armies. They burned worlds. They committed atrocities that would be remembered for centuries. But it was too late. The fire had spread too far. You cannot stamp out a flame that burns in 1 billion hearts. One by one, the Dominion's worlds fell. Their armies surrendered. Their leaders fled or were captured. The High Council, those powerful lords who had ruled the galaxy with iron fists, found themselves alone and afraid. In the end, they surrendered without a fight. The beings who had caused so much suffering could not face suffering themselves. They begged for mercy from the peoples they had shown no mercy to. The new Galactic Assembly debated for weeks about what to do with them. Some wanted execution. Some wanted imprisonment. Some wanted exile to barren worlds where they could live out their days in poverty. Kang Do-hyun spoke at that debate. He was not a politician. He was not a leader, despite what everyone called him. He was just a soldier who had gotten tired of following evil orders. "We have a choice," he said. "We can become what they were. We can rule through fear and punishment. We can make them suffer as they made us suffer." He paused. "Or we can be something new, something better. We can show the galaxy that there is another way." The Assembly chose mercy, not forgiveness. The crimes of the Dominion would never be forgotten, but mercy. The former lords were stripped of their power and wealth. They were made to work, to rebuild the worlds they had destroyed, to serve the peoples they had enslaved. Some called it too soft. Some called it too harsh. But it was different. And different was what the galaxy needed. The new Galactic Assembly was built on principles that would have seemed impossible just a few years before. Every species had a voice. Every world had a vote. No one was above the law, and no one was below it. Freedom was not a gift that could be given or taken away. It was a right that belonged to everyone. Ilya became one of the Assembly's greatest military leaders. She rebuilt the Valari people from the ashes of their destroyed kingdom. They would never have their old empire back. But they had something better, a future where they could stand beside other species as equals. Not conquerors. SOR. It transformed her intelligence network into something new, an organization dedicated to truth and transparency. No more secrets that allowed tyrants to hide their crimes. No more lies that kept people ignorant of their rights. Information would be free, and with it, the people would be free. And Do-yoon? Do-yoon refused every honor they tried to give him. They wanted to make him president of the assembly. They wanted to name him supreme commander of the combined forces. They wanted to build statues of him on every world. He said no to all of it. I never wanted power, he told Ilya and Sora when they asked why. I just wanted to do what was right. If I take power now, I become part of the problem. Someone else will have to fight me someday. The cycle will continue. Instead, he went home, not to the space station where he had lived as a soldier, not to any of the worlds he had fought to free. He went to Earth, to Korea, to the mountains where his ancestors had lived before the Dominion came. There, he found a small piece of land. He built a house with his own hands. He planted a garden. He learned to live in peace after a lifetime of war. It was not easy. Some nights, he woke up screaming from nightmares. Some days, the silence felt heavier than any burden he had carried. The ghosts of everyone he had lost walked beside him, his parents, his friends, the soldiers who had died following him into battle. But slowly, gradually, he learned to heal. Ilya and Sora visited often. Their duties kept them busy, but they always found time to come to the little house in the mountains. They would sit with Do-yoon on his porch, watching the sun set over peaks that had not changed in millions of years. The assembly wants to build a monument to the rebellion, Ilya told him one evening. They want to put your face on it. Tell them to build a school instead, Do-yoon said. We already did, Sora replied with a smile. 300 schools across the galaxy. Each one teaches the history of the rebellion. Each one teaches that ordinary people can change the universe. Dawn nodded. That was good. That was right. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out. The same stars that had witnessed the Dominion's cruelty now watched over a galaxy, learning to be free. Do you ever regret it? Ilya asked quietly. Do-yoon thought about the question. He thought about everything he had lost. His home, his family, his peace. He thought about the things he had done, the battles, the deaths, the impossible choices. No, he said finally. How can I regret something that led to this? He gestured at the sky full of stars. Each star was a sun. Each sun had worlds. And on those worlds, people were waking up without chains. Children were growing up without fear. Futures were being built that would have been impossible before, all because one human had refused to follow an evil order. All because 2 princesses had chosen to stand beside him. All because they had believed that kindness was stronger than cruelty, and hope was stronger than despair. The Dominion thought they were giving me an insult when they handed you to me, Do-yoon said. 2 princesses given to a human soldier, just to humiliate all of us. Their biggest mistake, Ilya agreed. No, Sora said thoughtfully. Their biggest mistake was not understanding what they were creating. They thought they were punishing us. Instead, they gave us each other. Do-yoon looked at the 2 women who had become his closest friends. His family, his reason for fighting, and his reason for healing. The Silver Princess with fire in her heart. The Blue Princess with wisdom in her eyes. 2 aliens from distant worlds who had taught him that the universe was bigger than his pain. I suppose I should thank them, he said with a small smile. Ilya laughed. Let us not go that far. They watched the stars together as the night grew deep. Somewhere out there, the galaxy they had saved was sleeping peacefully for the first time in centuries. Somewhere out there, children of every species were dreaming of futures full of possibility. It had started with cruelty. It had started with chains and humiliation and a joke at the expense of the conquered. But it had become something beautiful, something that would last long after all of them were gone. The Dominion had handed 2 captured princesses to a human warrior. The galaxy had regretted it. But Kang Do-yoon, sitting on his porch in the mountains of Korea with his two dearest friends beside him. Did not regret anything at all. This was not the ending. This was the beginning.